Tam Şaban'a bu özel sunumu için teşekkürlerimizi sunuyoruz. Şimdi de Afrika'da enerji dönüşümü, çabaları ve yatırım fırsatları sunumunu Afrika Enerji Odası Başkanı AYUK'tan dinleyeceğiz. Sayın AYUK'u sahneye davet ediyoruz.
Good afternoon. I so much wish I could do this speech in Turkish, but if I try, it's going to be so bad, nobody would either understand me or want me to do this. But I want to thank the organizers for inviting me for my first time to visit this beautiful country. It has been indeed a great honor to be in a country with so much renaissance, so much ideas, and also as an African, a country that has truly embraced Africa and embraced investment in Africa, but also giving Africa a voice when it comes to its energy sector. And I could not be more pleased to listen to the session before this, and also to listen to the past speaker that spoke not just about Turkey, but about the wider Caspian area and what the future is and what energy means. But beyond that, as somebody who pays attention to the oil and gas industry, I have heard so much here today about what I call the most pragmatic, common sense, balanced approach to energy. And it has been really amazing how this country is actually leading the world and leading Europe and also Africa when it comes to having that balanced vision when we talk about not just oil and gas, but energy for everybody. And it is always great. He actually has to stay here. Hassan from CS Oilfield, one of Turkey's actually largest exporters when it comes to oil field products or exports into Africa. So Hassan, I thank you so much for being here. It's really always an honor to see people like you whom you would think, why would a Turkish guy just prioritize Africa? He does, and he just made it a play that African energy space, whether it is developing in oil or natural gas, they're going to play a big role in services. I am not very smart like the previous speaker. That guy is smart. Just a little country boy who wants to make sure that we have energy. Real question is, why are we here? Big issue when it comes to investment opportunities in Africa. You're looking at a continent that really wants to deal with this energy infrastructure. Pipelines being built by Turkish producers, entrepreneurs, and Turkish companies. Energy infrastructure that would go not just with looking at refineries, but also looking at bunkering systems. But then it comes to that stuff where the Turks do so well when it comes to infrastructure, buildings, and really ensuring that there's efficient services that really drive our energy development. We're looking at projects around Africa, from Mozambique, where you're seeing it could go from from zero to the third largest producers of natural gas just beyond Russia and Qatar, and might even be the United States. That's huge when you look at that potential. So that's a great opportunity to be around there. But looking at what the Turkish government has done recently in really engaging countries like Senegal, where they just started, made history doing a 100,000 barrel a day field with Sagoma Woodside, but then also expanding on an in-country gas plant where you're going to see gas being piped around the country, but then going right up into the Sahel region. Why is that so important for why we're here? We believe when you look at the Sahel region in Africa and you gain the potential to drive up gas, and you see I'm not talking about gas to Europe, because the first thing is that we need gas in Africa. And you know why? We got 600 million people in Africa that have no access to electricity. 900 million have no access to clean cooking technologies, most of them women. We can't just continue accepting that the past ways and the old way of doing business is how it goes. So there's a big demand to build this in-country infrastructure, intracontinental infrastructure that drives and pipe gas all across the continent so we can meet needs. And I know you're asking about how is this also going to be possible when you look at the big push that talks about this new fun stories around your energy transition and everything. As an African, we have a very different view of it when you look at your transition. I know everybody just came from COP, and if they all flew into Baku with their nice private jets and then want to lecture us about how this transition should happen. We don't just talk about a transition, but we also understand one thing. The sun is not going to shine forever. The wind is not going to blow forever. You might need natural gas forever. That's our reality, and that might be your reality too, not just here. If you doubt it, just ask Germany what they have done in deindustrializing themselves. Our transition, as you want me to mention, our transition is not from natural gas or oil or coal into renewables. No, our transition is going to be centered around natural gas. But the first question you got to ask African countries that still need electricity, that still need to industrialize, where are they transitioning to? From the dark to the dark? I just told you 600 million people don't have access to electricity. So are you going to you need to have something first, then you transition to something. And I think that's really where the opportunity is, to build those gas to power plants and to build those energy infrastructure that would really be able to drive people up to get times. We're not against, I think a lot of people from Europe always tell us that you guys are against our transition. We're not against it. If you want to transition, go ahead and do it. But you know what? With 3% greenhouse gas emissions, you shouldn't be telling us to transition to anything. Nobody wants to breathe clean air in the dark. If you want to transition, that's fine. The wealthy nations need to transition, but African nations need to industrialize. And to be able to industrialize, we're going to have to use a lot of natural gas. And, you know, I like my friend from the previous panel said, natural gas kind of like a Swiss knife. I love that. That's Swiss knife that you can use to do a lot of things, because with us, we have an opportunity to do urea, ammonia, NPK, fertilizer plants. Those are key tenets that you need to be able to industrialize and drive up Africa and give us a chance to have a fighting chance to thrive. And why do I say this? I say this because as an African, we see energy differently. It's either we create a lot more jobs at home, be equal trading partners, win-win solutions, more respects, more deals, and more opportunity to create more jobs for everyday people. You know what happens when we do that? We stop our massive immigration flow. We don't get young people having to choose between if they're going to work within their country, build better lives, improve their communities, and then, or they have to choose to crossing the Mediterranean or the Sahara Desert to find jobs in the streets of Europe. That's wrong. We got to turn that around, and that's why we say it's going to be a lot to do around energy for Africa and getting that going. Onshore Africa, we've seen a lot of Turkish engagement around onshore Africa. That's something very new when it comes into exploring for natural gas onshore Africa. There's a lot of moves around Somalia, but also there's a lot of moves when you look around the Congo and even Angola with what they're trying to do there. That is what we start seeing as more opportunities. So I hope as we have these discussions, we start to engage more and really see Africa not just as a place where you're just going to supply, but also participate and invest. And for us, we're learning a lot with what you're doing here. But I think what I take from here going in is that we found friends that bring a more balanced approach to this. The discussions that we always hear in a lot of these forums, for the most part, it's always abandon your natural resources. And you should just hear what they did at COP. They're telling about giving them $300 billion to 2035 to leave their natural resources. I think they talked about $100 billion for many years. They never paid. They lied. And then we have this financing hurdle where natural gas is green for Europe, but now it's dirty for Africa. How you tell poor people natural gas is dirty for them, but it's green for Europe, and then you choke it up with financing that it can't come in, and then they tell us that don't produce your natural gas because it's bad for you and it's bad for it's not good for you. I always say, don't do what they tell you to do what they do, because what they do is very simple. They open new coal-fired plants in Great Britain for the first time in 30 years. I'm in South Africa. We have 8 to 10 hours a day sometimes of load shedding. That's electricity rationing. You know where all our coal is going? It's going to Germany, it's going to Poland, it's going to Holland. But then they tell us to stay in the dark, and while we supply them the coal and not have that. So when you look at the hypocrisy, Norway, I call Norway, the drill baby drill king of Europe, because Norway is doing 18 billion in new oil fields. Nobody's complaining about that. You got the UK putting almost 200 licenses in the North Sea. Nobody complains about that. US is opening all federal lands, and with President Trump coming in, it's going to be even better with them trying to drill, but it's going to see a lot of different aspects. Nobody's talking about it. But when it comes to Africa, the first thing they tell us is leave it in the ground. You should not drill. You should use solar and wind and what's that new fancy one they have these days? Green hydrogen and everything. Like, how many Africans are going to use green hydrogen? They haven't used natural gas first. They haven't used the oil, being able to get the medicines in the rural areas. And then now you tell them, we have something really nice for you. I mean, we just started to enjoy this oil today. You might want to give us some time to eat a little bit, okay, before you start telling us to decarbonize, because it's like the fat kid in the room telling the skinny kid, you need to lose weight. No, the fat kid should lose weight, not the skinny kid to lose weight. We're still trying to get fat in Africa. So I am deeply honored to be given this opportunity to share a few thoughts with you, but it's always a great opportunity. Turkey and Africa, I always say we're like peanut butter and jelly. We get along very well. It has been tremendous effort, be it the government, be it the entrepreneurs, that have just prioritized our relationship and have really driven it. And I think my coming here could not have meant a better thing, but also going into COP, most of the discussions and negotiations, we've always received a strong backing from this country and its institutions to make sure that Africa's voice, Africa's position is well on the table. I can assure you one thing. We will not in Africa be accepting any kind of COP deal in Baku that would say leave our oil in the ground. We would sit there, we would listen to them, and we'll say, okay, we heard you, bye-bye. We're not doing that. I have participated in every COP, right from Glasgow, being part of a lot of the negotiations. And this idea, this really fancy idea that you should abandon natural gas because some person in Brussels think of this fancy green hydrogen, it is something that people are still living in la la land. I encourage you that we should go right out there, drill baby drill, and do everything, provide the services you can, build gas to power plants, and it feels good to be in a country where I could give a speech without protesters shouting at me. So I feel very happy being here. Thank you so much, and God bless you.